Fins TV. I'm your host, Fins Sammy AKA Fins Post on X on Twitter. And I want to welcome my co-host for today. You know him already, Steve Hallett. Steve, welcome to the show.
Fantastic to be here. Happy Wednesday. Happy opening week of NFL 2023. Excited to talk with you. Excited to see a couple of our friends on here today. And let's talk some Dolphins.
That's awesome. We're gonna touch on Dolphins today. So start a great season. Hopefully, it's a great season. A lot of expectations for our Dolphins this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd like to say that I have no expectations, but the reality is every single year we start 0-0. We know we're going to make it to the Super Bowl. I guess every year except for when we had Adam Gase and Joe Philbin. But even then, we had that hope.
And Ken
But
Cameron.
It, oh, it's a long list. It's been a long, long 30 years since the glory days. But I'm really excited about what we're going to do this year, excited about our prospects. Tough schedule ahead. But again, it's opening week. I'm starting to get that feeling. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get that feeling. Lose you, Sam? There you are, bud.
There you go. Okay. Okay, we're back.
Hey, there we go.
Okay, there you go. So we're gonna talk. We're gonna start with the first topic. We're gonna talk about the Chargers.
Chargers. How about them? Last year was a tough one, Sammy.
Of course,
It's a tough.
right, with
That's
pads
right.
on.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, here he is again in the run up the middle. He fights for the first down, but he lost the ball. Gilman kicked it out. It's still free. Tyreek's got to look out. Tyreek Hill might go. Tyreek Hill was right on the spot, and he's gone for a touchdown. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Tyreek. The ball finds him.
What is going on around here? I've never seen a first half like that.
Offensive player advance.
3rd and 5. Shortest distance on a 3rd down. They try to go the distance, and they will. Sheeta, cheat code again. Tyreek touchdown. 60 yards. Chargers win by 6, 23-17.
Now you lost 2 in a row and you have to go to Buffalo.
To what they're good at, and we just didn't execute. It was very disappointing for us to go out there as an offense and kind of show what we showed. That's not to our standard. That's not how we play football here, and that was very disappointing. From the communication to getting the details right with our guys and just being able to make plays for our team. And like I said, it is very disappointing for us to go out and do what we did.
Rough game last year. There's a stat that said that every single team that played the 49ers lost the week after. So there was a huge physical game with the 49ers. The Dolphins looked like flat. You can see that they're flat. Tyreek wasn't the same during the game. They had a great game plan. They clogged the middle. Tua didn't have his throwing spaces. Mike McDaniel, when asked this week about the game plan, said he looked kind of bothered. He has chip on his shoulder, but I want to know what you think about that. The game last year, and what do you think about this week?
Well, I've really tried to forget that game. It was an opportunity, I think, where Tua had a chance to get that primetime monkey off of his back, and frankly, he did the opposite. And I got to give a shout out to my man Josh Houts. The guy absolutely grinds throughout the entire year.
Love Josh House. Great
I
guy.
love Josh Houts, but I made myself extremely depressed earlier today, and I pulled up his all 22 of every Tua drop back from that game, and I actually charted him out just to make it even worse, rub some salt in that wound. I mean, he was. You hear some of the people talking about what he did, but it's actually worse than that. I mean, that touchdown pass to Hill was great. that was his 4th completion of the game. You know,
Three
yeah,
17
he
the first
yeah, I
17
mean,
passes.
he was 4 for 20 when he hit Hill on that touchdown pass, and it was just he was just not on his game. And
No.
I'd like to think that it was an anomaly. He's really historically he's not that bad on the road as people would like to think, but prime time he just hasn't shown up.
Hmm.
So I think our defense came out, played a good game. It was you take away that Hill scramble on the fumble for the touchdown, it's a 2-score loss. I mean, overall, I just think that the Dolphins on the West Coast for 2 straight games, prime time, the spotlight was on them. I think they were off their game a lot. And I seriously have to give a lot of credit to the defense that the Chargers pulled. If you watch those dropbacks, they flooded the middle of the field and they cut off all of Tua's bread and butter. And he was just off. You see some of those passes, 5, 6, 7 of those passes were just off target. And that is not like Tua. Tua is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL of putting the
Hmm.
ball where it needs to be, when it needs to be there. It wasn't that game, and it showed.
Yeah, Tua was off definitely. He didn't look the same. I don't know. He was something physically. I have against Houston. He wasn't the same quarterback during the San Francisco game and even the Chargers game. Yeah, he did rebound and play pretty well against the Bills the week after, but he looked flat. He wasn't the same quarterback, and the results are there. 3 for 17. That's for one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the history of the sport. Uh, there's some things wrong. He wasn't the same. There was not the Tua that we all know and love during that game.
No,
Hopefully this week and this year the game plan is different. He's more prepared, and we'll see a different Tua.
well, I think we will see a different game plan. I think from the perspective of who we're going to face, I think our defense is going to be revamped. We talked about that on a previous episode
Hmm.
of Fins TV. I think with Fangio, the pieces getting extra experience in there, so I think that's going to be different. But we're also going to be facing an entirely different Chargers offense with Kellen Moore now being their offensive coordinator.
Hmm.
But I really have my biggest hope in this that McDaniel learned his lesson. You know, they're going
Hmm.
against a Chargers team that last year couldn't stop the run, but they managed to keep us in check. And we
Yeah.
really need to emphasize running outside the tackles, using that option run scheme that they say that we can do so well that we saw in the preseason. And I think that preseason that this, you know, McDaniel kind of flashed what we're really going to do. He's going to pass first, but he is going to lean on the run some more, and I think it's going to help us out a lot.
Williams versus Howard's, I think they're going to be the key of the game. If somehow uh, Howard can stop, contain Mike Williams, the big play, the throw over the middle, the high throws, the huge completions, the Dolphins might have a chance in this game. It's a road game. That obviously it's not the best home field advantage in the NFL. We all know that the Chargers have a fan base mostly based on San Diego, so they said they have to compete against the other team, and uh, the the home crowd is supposed to be their crowd, but they're usually the visitors' crowd. So hopefully, a lot of Dolphin fans are at the game, and we can make something happen. It
Well,
could be a 50-50 crowd.
I mean, one thing that stood out to me in that touchdown run, the scramble with the fumble,
Hmm.
was the crowd noise
Yeah,
when Hill was running with that ball, and then on the subsequent touchdown pass that they threw, the crowd was extremely loud for Miami. So I really hope the fans
yeah.
show out for them.
Hmm.
It's bad enough being all the way on the West Coast for that game, but hopefully there's not a huge home field advantage for the Chargers, and it plays a factor in it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. Well, next we're going to talk about who's under more pressure, Tua or Justin Herbert.
In easily it's Tua. I mean,
Rush. Not only how ordinary he looks like a third string quarterback. You could argue he looks like a college quarterback not physically good enough to be in the NFL. I mean, I've never heard of a quarterback starting a game like 3 for 17. I've never heard of that.
Do they maybe give you a little evidence why the Miami Dolphins did everything they could, including illegally tampering with a senior citizen, in order to move on from Tua Tagovailoa? 3 for 17. That, while, a not atypical Reggie Miller night back in the mid-90s, should never happen to your starting quarterback in the NFL.
Time locating the football because he threw a couple of passes and Tyreek didn't see the ball until he hit the dirt. He threw one to Waddle up the rail and he didn't see it till it hit the dirt.
I've never seen that happen in that stadium before.
Yeah.
I get it.
The Chargers didn't seem to have it. The Chargers didn't seem to have any problem. And Herbert was at his
We waited until it was over, officially. All week, Dolphins fans kept saying that this was going to be the deciding game on whether Tua was better than Justin Herbert. You guys were right about something for once.
It was a lot to do with Tua and the Dolphins. Nice game by the Chargers. Not going to, rain on the parade right now, but Dolphins gonna Dolphin. I tried to warn you about this, but you in it now. You in it. You're with us now. No backing out. We're in the ocean together. This is what the Dolphins are going to do.
Part of this Chargers list of things that are big winners, where you're going to pretend like you're not a big winner this week. It was like the game of the internet of the Twitter season.
Tua or Justin Herbert? Bill, you go.
Well, I will go Justin Herbert, and it's not because of anything about him. It's more about Tua's injuries. Even leaving the concussion aside, he's had the hip injury at Alabama, now ankle, finger, rib injuries. That just does not bode well for NFL careers. Maybe he's the exception, but I think Justin Herbert being healthier is the difference.
I was wearing a Tua jersey Saturday night, and as soon as I got on this bandwagon, the wheels fall off.
I drove this bandwagon just so we're on the same page.
Now there's a wheel on fire. It's flown into the crowd, and it's scarred the faces of believers. Tuanon is in the dirt today, crushed by Herbert, who has more completions in a night than Acho has tackles in a career.
Let down by a
pressure. We can debate if it's Justin Herbert or Tua Tagovailoa the most pressure. You see on the video the reaction of Justin Herbert after the game. You can see he knows what's at stake last year. What was at stake last year? The comparison. I personally believe that I didn't want Justin Herbert. I preferred Tua before the draft because I see some flaws on Justin Herbert's game. I'm not an expert, but it reminds me a lot of Ryan Tannehill, the pocket presence, the lack of pocket presence. For me, to be honest, he has answered a lot of the questions I had about him. That's to be fair. He still had not won the big game. He had a huge lead during the playoffs last season, and he didn't close out the game. He has a lot of stats. Emmanuel Acho calls him a media moments. He flashes. He has great moments, but he doesn't close the game. So you can say Tua you think, Steve?
We keep on losing you a little bit, Sam, but going to the question of who's under more pressure, it's easily Tua. I mean, when have we ever really seen, from the media perspective and from fan perspective, when have we ever even seen Herbert under pressure? And to be honest, you showed a lot of valid clips there. It's the flashback from that game that he just had. And again, we just talked about it. It was a horrible game, no doubt about it. But the last time we saw Herbert, what a 27-point lead, and they ended up losing 30-31. 43 dropbacks, only 25 completions out of those. I mean, Herbert is Teflon. Nothing ever seems to stick to him. Again, we're opposite ends of the country here, so we don't see a lot of any of the media around him. Frankly, I don't pay a lot of attention to Chargers Twitter or X, if there is a Chargers Twitter or X. I'm not sure. I know Acho is definitely the one who keeps Herbert at the front of anything in the social media for me, because he's always just writing that debate between Tua or Herbert. And I think just because of the draft night debate as to which quarterback was Miami going to pick, they went Tua. So I just don't think that debate's ever going to end. It's kind of like in my brain, the Tannehill Luck debate never ended, because I always wanted Tannehill to be better than Luck. He's just lasted longer in the league. I can't say that he is better than him.
He won by default.
Yeah, exactly. He wins by longevity. But, I mean, the biggest pressure, in my opinion, between the two of those, hands down, it's Tua. It's up to Tua to go out there and prove that last year does not define who he is when he's on the road on the West Coast. Show that he can show up in a big game when it matters. And first game of the season, it's not prime time, but it is a big game for him. And I think he's going to show up. And there's 11 people on each side of the ball. It's not all about the quarterbacks, but we both know, as everybody does, as in those clips that we just saw, they're going to boil it down to one player versus another, even though they're never on the field at the same exact time. That's what it's going to end up being. It's going to be a debate between the two of those, and the pressure is definitely on Tua to show that he can get it done.
Yeah, the pressure is definitely on Tua. The media knows the pressure is on Tua. I have not heard most of it. Justin Herbert collapsed to the playoffs. If it was Tua, there will be headlines every single week. The ESPN talking heads will be talking about that. So
they'd still be talking about it. Absolutely. 110%. That would be the talking point of how Tua single-handedly lost a 27-point lead in the playoffs on the road. Absolutely 100%. It would have been the talking point the entire last 5-6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully Tua is the one who proves the doubters wrong, and he has a great week, and hopefully the Dolphins win the game.
Hear, hear.
Well, next we're going to talk about the AFC East, and we're going to welcome our guest. So, want to welcome our guest, Eddie Chaput and Matt Armstrong. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome aboard, guys. Great to see you.
Well, we're going to talk about the AFC East. They have a lot of expectation for every single team of the AFC East. Even the Patriots, if you talk to the fan base, they truly believe they have a chance. And even I've seen some pundits saying that the Patriots might win the AFC East. But I want to start with Matt. I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you think who's going to be the favorite? What do you expect from the AFC East?
It's obvious to me. It's obvious to anybody that has any common sense about them. It's the Dolphins. The Dolphins are the absolute favorite in the AFC East. And I challenge anybody to bring a cogent, legitimate argument that counters that. It's the Dolphins, then the Bills. The Bills still have Josh Allen. They still have him. They still are a player in this. And I forget what that team is that just got a new quarterback. He wears green, number
Eagle,
8 or something. Anyways, and then sad, but it's the Patriots in last place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Patriots. Bill Belichick is searching for that elusive Don Shula record. We are rooting. It takes him out. He's going to get it at least 4 more seasons, like 4 seasons of 5 and 12, and he doesn't get it. Eddie, I want to know your thoughts on the AFC East. Who do you think is going to favor it? How the Dolphins stack on the AFC East?
I think it's going to be a battle between Miami and Buffalo. Leaning towards Buffalo winning it just because of still not sure about our line on both lines, because I'm a little worried about the defensive line depth. But I see the Jets finishing 3rd and the Patriots 4th. But I think it's going to come down to the last couple weeks between Miami and Buffalo.
Okay. Steve, what do you think?
Well, I think that every national analyst is going to throw 4 different AFC East winners against the board because nobody's ever going to hold them accountable other than the Dolphins receipt Twitter/X account. They'll be the ones that plaster it out there to say you were wrong when they picked anybody else but the Dolphins. But I do believe that it's going to be a lot closer than, what they're saying than what they expect. I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if none of the teams run away. Wouldn't be surprised if each team in the AFC East goes 3-3 against each other, just because those games are always hard fought. Well, most of the time, unless it's the Bills versus the Patriots. But, I think that the Dolphins have the most solid longevity with what they're looking at, aside from the Jets defense, which is going to be strong and hard to play against. I see the Patriots, we've talked about this before, Sammy. Patriots brought in Bill O'Brien to revamp a defense that Matt Patricia had no position ever being in control of last year. But the question is who in the world is Matt going to throw to? He's got Gesicki, who's already been hurt, who couldn't get it done as a route runner and pass catcher in Miami. A Devontae Parker, who's already showed up on the injury report. No clue how he's going to be this year, but he's spent a lot of his career showing up on the injury report. So, can Elliott and Stevenson hold the backfield so they can leverage the running game to do anything? Defense is going to be good for them. I think defense across the entire AFC East is going to be stout. The long answer to a short question, I'm going to go Dolphins, Bills, Jets, Patriots in that order.
I try my best not to be a homer. So I tried, of course, and I did not succeed. But I did it that complete season simulator, like predicting every week, every single game, and to see what the outcome of the whole season was. Afterwards, I had the Dolphins winning the division as the third seed in the whole AFC. We're going to talk about what you think about the whole picture in the next segment. But I do believe the Dolphins have a chance to win this. If they win the games they're supposed to win, they might be able to win the division. The Bills are still the Bills. They're not as stacked as they used to be. They're older, but they have probably the best quarterback in the division. Josh Allen is just a beast. I don't know how much, for how long he can sustain being such a running quarterback. Last season, the elbow, he played very good despite the injuries, but that's not sustainable if you ask me. And they didn't upgrade the complementary pass catchers that will help them to develop that passing game. They had a chance. The Hopkins went to the Titans. They probably should have made a move on that. Although Beckham Jr. was talking about for the Bills, it did not happen. They got Kincaid in the draft. They're probably thinking that they're gonna attack the middle of the field. The Dolphins are not the strongest at the middle of the field, other than Hallett. But the Bills are still the Bills. The Jets, they say the Dolphins are the question mark of the division. To me, the Jets are the question mark in the division. Of course, they have Aaron Rodgers. His resume speaks for itself. He's going to be 40 years old. You talk about Tua's injuries, but to be honest, the 4-year quarterback it's not a young buck anymore. He didn't have the greatest season the last 2 seasons. He would need to return to his MVP form this season for it to be a successful season. The pass catchers on the Jets do not stack against the Dolphins pass catchers. The defense is great. The running game, of course, I used to say that the team that got Dalvin Cook will win the division. I'm gonna eat my words and grow on that because I'm revising history here and saying that's not gonna happen. So I have the Dolphins first, the Bills 1 game behind, and I do not expect a huge season for the Jets, as the media is making people to believe. I think the huge media campaign saying that the Jets are gonna be the favorites on the East, and a lot of people have bought the hype. I'm not, and the Bills could surprise a lot of people. I don't think they're going to be terrible, but they're going to end in 4th place. So,
I think the one thing that makes it easy right now is because we're picturing rosters fully healthy, which injury report came out today. Dolphins are already starting in Dolphin fashion. Way too many injuries on that injury report.
That's all Dolphins.
Hate to see Armstead on there, but in any case, we're looking at it through a lens of every team is healthy for 17 games out of the year, and the reality is they're not going to be. We have no idea what injuries are going to take place to our team, to the Jets, to the Patriots, to the Bills, and anywhere else around the league. Look at Travis Kelce yesterday, hyperextending his knee. It's a good thing I don't play fantasy football because I'm sure I would have selected him and I'd be in tears right now about my fantasy team.
I don't anymore. I just can't play fantasy football anymore. I just can't.
So we know injuries are going to happen. We know that the Dolphins have one of the toughest schedules, regardless of injuries, of all teams in the NFL this year. AFC East is going to be a bear, but hell, we're going to the Super Bowl. That's what I'm calling it right now. Anyway, so.
Hopefully we go to the Super Bowl. No, let's play over under next. Okay, over under Tua, 3,800 passing yards and 28 touchdowns. Over under, Matt, do you think Tua goes over 3,800 yards and 28 touchdowns for the next season?
This is one that I'm a little bit stuck on, and I'll explain why really quick. He has the weapons, right? And let's call Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle exactly what they are, weapons. And then you add Braxton Berrios to the equation. Robbie Chosen, you can add him in there. Eazy-E, add him in there. He has weapons on the offensive side. And I haven't even touched the offensive backfield. But when you look at those weapons that he has, it's easy to see, in my opinion, that he goes over 3,800 and over 28 TDs. I counter that by saying I also know that there seems to be a desire to run. And I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. Him handing off preserves him and his health, and it also kills time on the clock, right? Preserves leads, and that has always been a challenge that we've had. So if I'm going to be held to the fire here, I'm going to go to over 4,000, under 30 touchdowns.
Okay. Eddie, over under 3,800 yards and 28 touchdowns for Tua.
I'm thinking around 4,200 yards, probably in the mid-30s on touchdowns. I do believe they're going to use the backs a lot more this year. Please use the backs more this year. But I think they're also going to throw to the backs a lot more. That's why I love Ahmed. He can swing out of that backfield and catch better than any other back, and they don't use that enough. But hopefully they run a lot, but I still see Tua having a huge year, and I'm a little worried about the tight end position near the end zone. We don't really have a guy that's big to go into the end zone, but we'll have to score from 20 yards out or run it in. But I'm still going with over and over.
Yeah, you and I were talking this week, and you have made a great point about how the Dolphins personnel on the ends of the running backs and the tight ends are probably not the best. And also A-Chain.
Yes,
I admit it has looked like what we've thought A-Chain was going to look like during preseason, but a lot of expectation for A-Chain, and so maybe he's a factor. Catching the ball out of the backfield plus with Ahmed, it should be good. Steve, over under 300 yards and 28 touchdowns.
I have to be consistent. I can't be like the national media pundits. I'm not Colin Cowherd. I'm going to stay consistent from a couple weeks ago where I called he was going to be around 4,500 yards through the air. I'll go with Eddie here, about 35 touchdowns. Agree 100%. They're going to leverage the running backs a lot more. I mean, we haven't mentioned Mostert. Mostert can catch the ball and he can run.
Yes. Yeah.
And I absolutely love McDaniel's use of pre-snap motion for years under Philbin, under Gase. Yes. Forget about Flores. I pounded the table as to why we never used pre-snap motion. Yep. McDaniel is the answer to my football prayers. that he runs pre-snap motion the most in the NFL, and I think that they're going to use all of it. And either way, and again, this goes off of Tua. If he's able to stay healthy, there's no. I think he's going to be closer to 5,000 yards if he stays healthy, because that's where he would have been last year. But I fully expect him to eclipse 4,000 this year and do that.
Yeah, I've said before, my expectation is for Tua to be completely healthy, play the whole 20 games. Wink, wink. So I expect him to go over even over 4,200 yards and probably 35 touchdowns. So the running game should be better. McDaniel has talked about committing to the running game. We talked in an episode before, Steve and I did, about how they abandoned the run on short yardage, how they abandoned the run in the red zone. Hopefully this changes season. It's been said that McDaniel's running system gets better on the second year. That's why they're expecting a lot from Jackson and Liam Eichenberg. This name shall not be named. But the reality is that we can spell an improvement on the running games, but still, that should only help to us. So I spent more than 4,200 yards and 35 touchdowns, if you ask me.
I like it. We all agree.
Okay. Tyreek, 1,450 yards receiving next season. Over under, Eddie.
That's a tough one. I think he's going to be right near that mark. I think his numbers are going to come down a little more, and Waddle's numbers are going to go up. And I believe, like I said, they're going to run the ball a little more. So I think he's going to be right around 1,400 to 1,500 yards.
Mm-hmm. Matt, what do you think?
Tyreek Hill, 1,775 yards minimum.
Say that again?
1,775 yards minimum receiving.
Bold.
That's bold. Well, not as bold as Tyreek, who says he's going to go over 2,000. But to me, that's bold. That's bold, man. That's really bold.
Tyreek can say that. He knows what he's capable of. I'm only an observer. So I'm going to hedge my bet. We'll go 1,775.
Wow. How about you, Steve?
I like it. I was going to say push. Eddie went for that. So I'll say that he's going to go... I'll say he's going to be right around 1,500 yards. So let's go slightly over, and for the same exact reasons. I think the defenses, unfortunately, as we talked about earlier, the Chargers gave the blueprint for how to defend Miami. And frankly, I'm surprised that every single team didn't take that tape and just cookie cutter it and say, we're going to do that same exact thing. So
that might happen.
I think that Tua is going to spread the ball around more this year. We have, I don't think we'll see Craycraft in there as much. I hope we do see Chosen come off the practice squad, but hopefully not at the expense of Waddle or Hill. But I do expect a bigger year out of Hill. Hill's going to go over 1,000 yards and become the third or fourth wide receiver in history to top that in his first few seasons in a row. So I'm going to say right around 1,500 yards for Hill, but 1,500 yards, I'll take it from any player.
For me, this is complicated because with the luck of Mike Gesicki, there's catches and yardage to be had. Barrios is going to get a lot short passes, not a lot of yards. The reason I said 1,450 is because it's close to the area. To expect 2,000 yards would be great, but to me, that's kind of unrealistic. If you're going to run the ball, as expectation is we're going to run the ball more. The numbers should go down. He should be around 1,550 yards. I don't expect him to have the 2,000 yards I expect, but it would be awesome. We'll be glad. We'll be rooting for him if we'll be over the moon, but it will be rough.
I like it.
Okay. Over or under, Steve?
Over-unders on the Dolphins wins. Well, you're starting us above the Vegas line of 9.5, so I appreciate that. I know how you bet it. I know you're a homer, but I know that you bet over the 9.5.
Yeah, now we can bet on Puerto Rico. So,
oh, I like it. You can't, but you can't in Florida.
We finally can bet on Puerto Rico, so you know that what's coming.
Oh, I don't bet. I don't lose my money that way. I lose it in many other
I
ways.
don't, but $20 though. Well, with the lot, with the Mega Millions is over $300 million. I had put $4 on it, but that's not the most betting I do.
There you go. Good point. I bet $2 anytime that happens. Because a $30 million Mega
Right,
Millions
that
wouldn't be
wouldn't
enough
do
for
it,
me.
yeah.
Not worth
No,
it.
If
no.
the government's taking 40%, that's some change. So.
We're all guilty of that.
Absolutely. So I went through the playoff predictor, which we'll talk about here in the next segment. But I'm a homer, playing things with a healthy roster, which we know isn't going to happen. I definitely have them over 10.5 games. It's going to be tough again, extremely tough schedule, but they play the games for a reason. I have us going a little bit over 10.5 games.
How about you, Matt?
So I think that one of the things as a Dolphins fan, all of us will agree, anybody who's watching this will agree that we've been right there for so long. Either the expectations were, and we grossly missed those expectations, a 4-12 season, 6-10 season, or we get these opportunities like we have now where, wow, they really should get over 10 wins. And they come in at 8-8, 9-7, right? This team is due. This team has, we all remember 2019. We all remember the tear down and the national pundits just ripping this team apart. The leadership of the team. What are they doing? What's Stephen Ross doing? In my opinion, it is time that we finally, as a fan base, get to cheer on a team that exceeds those expectations. The Vegas line, 9.5, okay, I can live with that. And I know absolutes scare the hell out of everybody, so I'm not going to say what my actual belief is, which is what I say every year, and you guys know what it is. I'm going to be legit here. I'm going to say it's over. I think that we get out of the regular season 13 wins.
Okay. How are you, Eddie?
10 wins and a tie. No, I'm just kidding. 11 wins.
Good night, everybody.
I think 11 wins is realistic with this tough division and having to play Kansas City and a couple other teams. But 11, maybe 12, I'm hoping for, but 11. So over.
Yeah, I have to go over. I try my best and to be realistic and to, calm myself down, but over and over and over, the number I have, to me, 9.5 was way too low. You cannot expect the media, the pundits, Vegas, the outmakers to see it the way we see it. We've seen the improvement year to year, the layers being added to the team. I think Fangio is going to make a huge difference. We talked about here in Fins TV before, but we cannot express enough. Eventually, probably not the first weeks, but the defense is going to be developing, and by the end of the season, I think we're going to be much better. Even when Ramsey comes back, even better. So I had to go over it. I try my best not to be a homer. The only homer not allowed on this show is Homer Jelly, if you know what I mean. You know Homer.
Yes,
Homer Jelly
we know
is.
who Homer Jelly is.
Any other homer is allowed on this show. But I have to go over. I think they have the pieces. Steve knows I would have liked an upgrade on running back. It didn't happen. But enough of the lack of this team has pretty good running backs. They need to commit to the running game. If we commit to the running game and we get a lead and we run the ball and control the clock and stay and the defense plays well, this seems to be able to surpass by far the 10, 11 wins. So I have to go. I have to go over. So
absolutely.
So
we agree.
Okay, let's wrap this up with the predictions for the season. This season could be the best season ever, or could be the most disappointing season ever. If you go by what the media says, it also depends on Tua. Again, I'm expecting him to have a good season, to stay healthy, to be hurt, to play hurt. That's part of the process. If they win on Sunday, going back to the Chargers, if they win on Sunday, which I expect them to do, they will start with a foot forward and on their way, and they should have a good season. I have them winning 12 games for the season and finishing first in the AFC East, Bills second, Jets third. The third, the third seed on the AFC. First, the Chiefs. The Chiefs are just, as long as you have Patrick Mahomes, you're on every single game. They should be the favorites on every single game. The Bengals, they said that the toughest division in football right now is the AFC East, but if you ask me, the AFC North to me is the strongest division in football. Even the Steelers should surprise a lot of people. They should be hovering around the last playoff spot. Uh, the Ravens should be much better. The Bengals are a Super Bowl contender. The Browns, they have, if you look at the roster, they have a really, really, really good roster. They had not put it together. That quarterback who shot remain nameless has to prove again he's the player he once was with the Browns. They invested a lot of him, in him. If he plays to the standard he used to play, they're gonna be a factor. So I'm glad we don't have to play them because that game could go either way. Um, the Broncos is a team that could be hovering. That's a huge wild card. They could sneak into the playoffs or go get 5-12. We just don't know. But on the AFC, I have the Chiefs first, the Bengals second, Dolphins on third, Jaguars running away with that division, but even with that, they're still a fourth seed. Bills, Chargers, and Ravens. Those are my playoffs teams on the AFC. Steve, do you have any teams?
I'm pretty darn close to you, and again, as much as I want to be humble about it, I know that I end up going heavy on Dolphins for some of these, but I really want to believe that I was being honest with some of these. I may have even said that they were going to lose to the Chargers, just to be honest with myself on the schedule. But in any case, I also had
tried
them
my best to do that, but I couldn't.
It hurts me. It hurts to my core, Sam. It hurts to my core. But I had them also winning 13 games. But like you said, it's Mahomes against the field until proven wrong. So, I'm very close to yours. Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins in the third seed. Steelers, I think, are really poised to have an outstanding season. Their defense is always stout. TJ Watt, he stays healthy. I think he's the core of that defense. If he does that, I think they're going to do extremely well. Ravens and then the Bills taking up the anchor of it with the 7th seed. I agree with you. The AFC North, they always play each other tough. They almost always split the series with each other. When they're in competitive environments like this, and I'd say really this is probably the most competitive we've seen that AFC North.
Yeah.
So not too far off from your predictions, but I definitely have the Dolphins in there at the 3 seed.
Matt, do you have any thoughts on the whole AFC picture?
Let's start off with the AFC has more quarterbacks than they have teams.
Yeah.
If you run down the roster of every single AFC team, there's a quarterback that you would be fine with starting your season with. And yes, I just said I'd be fine with starting my season with Josh Allen if that was my quarterback. I think he's phenomenal. Mahomes he's an alien. He's from another planet, and as long as he's healthy, I saw something where his leg was practically broken in the playoffs, and he wouldn't even come out of the game. Right? That's the kind of guy that, as a fan, you gotta love that, right? So the Chiefs are it until Mahomes isn't playing. I think that my field for the playoffs this year is very similar to everybody else on the panel. When you have all of those quarterbacks, they're going to balance each other out at some point, and then the cream rises to the top. I don't think the Steelers are in there. I don't think Kenny Pickett is it. I think everything else that the Steelers are famous for, that they are legitimate for on a year in and year out basis. Mike Tomlin is still there. I just don't think that Pickett is the guy that gets them there. So to answer the question, the long answer to your question is, I'm going to mirror everything that everybody else has said in terms of the playoff field, with the exception of the Steelers. And I'm going to tell you that it's the Dolphins are the number one seed. They beat the Chiefs in Germany, and they go head to head down the stretch. The tiebreaker is that game in Germany, Dolphins over the Chiefs. Dolphins are the number one seed. Chiefs are number two. The rest of the field plays itself out.
Yeah, that's my tiebreaker also. Eddie, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I got the Chiefs in the first spot. Then the Bengals, the Dolphins, Jags would be the fourth division winner. I got the Bills, Ravens, and then I have the Browns making it instead of the Steelers.
Wow. Someone tagged.
I just think the Browns have a good roster.
Yeah, they do. I thought someone tagged that Jets ass clown who's on the web bashing the Dolphins every single day. Tell them nobody was picked the Jets to make the playoffs and to see what happens.
I've got to give credit to Eddie there. I've totally left out, like everybody always does, the AFC South, and I missed the Jaguars in there at the fourth seed. So you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
If the Dolphins were on that division, we were 16-1.
If the Dolphins were in that division, Adam Gase would still be our coach because he looked like a champ. But
we should have been on that division. But when Heisinga didn't want us to be in that division, that's why we are not in that division. So the Colts went to that division. We were the ones who were supposed to go there. And when Heisinga didn't want to lose the historical rivalries with the Jets and the Patriots and the Bills, and that's why we got stuck in there. We had to travel every single time up north to play those teams, and they whine and complain at time they had to go in December to some kind of hot weather.
We are talking about a league that is very famous for not making sense on many, many things. So I get why the Dolphins are in the AFC East. We're old school Dolphins fans. We remember when the Colts were a member of the AFC East. That's right, boys and girls. Anybody who's watching this, the Baltimore Colts were a member of the AFC East at one time.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. If they were in the AFC South, which is geographically obviously where they should be, that's a 17-0 team going into the playoffs.
Oh man, you're so bold as always. Any thoughts on the MVP? Of course, I have Patrick Mahomes. Do you have any picks over the top of your head?
I'm going to tell you that Mahomes is the guy until somebody unseats him. And if there's a second place guy, I would say it's Burrow. Burrow is the second coming of Joe Montana, in my opinion. I think that guy is just so doggone cool. And what was Joe Montana's nickname? It was Joe Cool. So Mahomes and probably Burrow would be my runner-up in that pick.
If Mr. Ross, Steven Ross is watching, I know he's not. Sorry about that. I'm pretty sure he's having a heart attack. He used to say that. He wanted so bad that Joe Burrow. I have to get that in there. Any thoughts on, briefly on the NFC? Any of you guys have any thoughts? I have the Cowboys, shockingly, as the number one seed on the NFC. I'm going to go bold on that myself. I have the Cowboys. Probably even tied with the same record, but division tiebreaker with the Eagles. The Eagles are very, very, very good. They're not as good as they were up the middle of the defense last year. They had a huge season. Everything went well for them. They had no flaws. I was worried for a while if we were going to even lose the game. The schedule was a fluff. But they're a good team. No taking the credit away from them, but I do not expect them to have a huge season like last year. I have the 49ers. If Brock Purdy is what they think he is, the 49ers should be well on their way to make the playoffs. I have the Packers surprisingly winning the division, even with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is not going to be what Aaron Rodgers was in his prime, but probably because what he was on these later years. The truth is Aaron Rodgers was good the last two seasons, but he wasn't the guy he was before. Any thoughts on you guys on the NFC? Steve, do you have any thoughts?
I'll defer to Eddie here. Eddie, what do you got for the NFC? Do you have anything there?
Yeah, I do. I have the Cowboys winning that division. I have the 49ers winning the division. I don't know, it feels like a weird pick, but I'm going with the Lions to win the division.
It's not a weird pick. That's the people's choice. So you're
yeah,
pretty
but
much.
it feels almost forced. I don't know why. I just can't split them teams up. They're just all the
Because
same.
nobody's ever said that.
Yeah. I have the Saints winning the division, Eagles in, the Falcons in, and the Vikings in.
Wow.
That's pretty good. Do you have any thought, Matt?
Overall? I'm a Dak Prescott fan. I want to see that guy succeed. And as far as he goes, I think the Cowboys go. I don't watch them for any reason other than they are on TV every week, it seems like. But, that guy seems to be a little bit snake bit at times with the injuries that he has. But it's clear to me that Prescott can play. So I'm going to say the Cowboys and the Eagles finish in a tie in their division. I just can't dismiss the Eagles. That's a really good team, and some of the pickups they made in the draft this year are unfair, to be honest. Over in the NFC West, I think it's the 49ers head and shoulders above everybody else. And then in the NFC South, I like what the Saints have been doing. And in the NFC North, because I spent some time in Minnesota earlier this year, I'm going to go with the Vikings in the NFC North.
Why not? All right,
Yeah.
So I think we're probably going to cover every single one of the teams out of the North here, because I'm going to say the Eagles, again, head and shoulders, the team that they've built. They're the Georgia Bulldogs of Pennsylvania with the way that they drafted this year. They lost defense, but they found some way to have a stockpile of picks that they went out there and they frankly, looted the best team in college, especially when it comes to defense.
Yeah.
So the Eagles, I've got to stick with them until proven wrong. It's kind of like Jalen Hurts, such a natural leader. And frankly, the way that Sirianni runs that team, I've got to be proven wrong on them. But I've got my second seed in the NFC right now, and this comes solely out of me picking each game for the entire season. I've got the Bears in my second seed.
Wow.
And I really do expect Justin Fields to take a big leap. I think that they've put some good pieces around him. Hopefully they don't keep on running him like he's a running back. But I think that they're going to surprise a lot of people, and they're going to take the North. And then wrapping up the division leads, I've got the 49ers and the Saints. I think in a very, very beat up and sad NFC South, I think the Saints are really going to be that 9-8, 8-9 division winner again out of there. So, and then close behind Cowboys, Seahawks, and Giants to wrap it out. I don't think anybody else picked the Giants, but I think that they've got a chance with Dable running that team that they won't ask much of Daniel Jones, but I think Barkley's going to have a chip on his shoulder to go out there to try to prove something, and they too have a defense that's on the rise. So
every time I think about the Giants, I just think of one game, that Jets-Giants game. That game to me is going to be the key of the Jets season. If they find a way to win that game, they might sneak into the playoffs. If the Giants win them over and just steal the Giants and just steal the Jets, it's game over for them, if you ask me. So. Well, guys, I want to thank you. We powered through some bumpy technical difficulties during the first segments. Hopefully for next week, everyone is going to be settled. We're going to be okay. Our first time going live, so hiccups were supposed to happen, but I think we powered through. I want to say thank you again. Hopefully, we're going to watch the game. We're going to be back here next week. We're going to talk about the games, what happened, how Tua bounced back. And any last thoughts before we go?
Had an absolutely great time. Fantastic meeting Eddie. Matt, great seeing you again. It's been too long.
Yep.
And definitely looking forward to season, doing this a lot more times as the season progresses. But thanks a lot for spending the time with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was great meeting all of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to echo Steve's sentiment there. Eddie, great meeting you, man.
Same.
Steve, you and I, and Sammy too, we were talking earlier before we got started. I think I've been associated with you two the longest, solely because of our love of the Dolphins and football, and I'm honored to have been asked to be a part of this. I'm looking forward to joining you guys again in the future.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week on Fin TV. Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Fins up.
Fins up.
35-14 Dolphins.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins.